What's going on, everyone? This is Mortem, bringing you some basics on the Revenant class in Guild Wars 2. So I've recently been getting back into Guild Wars 2 and the Heart of Thorns expansion, and the first thing I did was check out the Revenant class. And now that I've got a character up a little ways, I understand how it works, and I would like to share that with you guys for anyone who might not know. I know I'm a little late to the party as far as this expansion goes, but we're going to do it anyway. So, for the Revenant class, it focuses on 4 different legendary heroes of old, if you will, and you pull their spirit from the mist to help aid you. There is actually a 5th one, which is a legendary dragon. However, that is an elite specialization, so we're not going to worry about that here. However, those 4 legendary people are the legendary dwarf Jalus Ironhammer, the legendary demon Malix the Unyielding, the legendary centaur Ventari, and the legendary assassin Shiro Tagachi. Now, each one of these, depending on which one you have active and which one you are currently channeling, will give you certain abilities. For instance, the demon is all about taking conditions, applying them, and then resisting the conditions that are on you, but giving you power by having them on you. For instance, this one gives you resistance, so having the condition on you doesn't actually hurt you at all, but having them on you helps you because it will do things like heal you more when you use your healing skill. So you're pulling them off of enemies onto yourself, but just negating the damage. And then there are things like the assassin, who just help with doing more damage and moving around, things like that. Now, this class as a whole is very engaging. It's melee, of course, but it's got a lot of things to actually engage with, not just running up and smacking things, but you have a lot of mobility. But before we get into that too much, we're going to talk about how all of those legendary characters affect your abilities. So, naturally, for Guild Wars 2, the weapons you are holding determine your 1 through 5 skills. Those are always determined on your weapon. However, your utility skills, which is your healing skill, which is your 6th ability, and then 7 through 9, are all based on which legendary character you are currently channeling. So, as a demon, as I'm channeling the legendary demon, I get these 3: Banish Enchantment, Unyielding Anguish, and Pain Absorption. However, if I switch to the inactive one, which is the legendary assassin for me, then it changes those into the 3 for the legendary assassin, which in this case are Phase Traversal, Impossible Odds, and Riposting Shadow. I'm gonna butcher that, but oh well. It also affects your healing skill and the ultimate. The ultimates here, as you can see, the elite skills, ultimate, whatever you want to call them, depending on which character you are channeling, determines which one of those you have. It does seem like there are a couple that are not actually tied to any of them, so you can just pick them in that regard, but for the most part, they're going to be tied to which one you are channeling. Now, as far as channeling them goes, there's 4, but you can keep 2 primed and ready to go in combat. As you pick them up, you can learn them with the character building and the build screen on the character menu. You can choose 2, your active and your inactive. For me right now, I have the demon active, and I have the assassin as the inactive. I can just freely switch between those. When I'm not in combat, I can of course change this around if I wanted to use the legendary centaur or the legendary dwarf. However, for right now, I just have these 2. So with that in mind, I want to give you a little bit of a preview of how those abilities work and what they look like. So we're going to get into a little bit of combat here and show you kind of how the Revenant looks when it's actually fighting something. Personally, I've found the guy to be very strong. The heavy armor definitely helps you stay alive, plus you get a lot of damage, especially as the demon at least. But just to show you mid-combat that you can switch, I'm in the demon form right now, but then I can just switch over to the assassin for an entirely different set and a refresh on my skills. So to play this really effectively, you would switch between those fairly regularly just to keep your skills moving. And you would try to pick the two that work for what you're going to want to do personally. Which, as someone who's doing damage, it seems like Demon and the Assassin would be the way to go. If you wanted to do things like take more damage, you'd probably pick up the Dwarf character to channel. Now you might also notice this energy bar here. It stays pretty well rested at just 50% when you're not in combat. However, as you're in combat, your abilities spend that. And then your basic weapon abilities will rebuild it. So you can't just spam super strong abilities endlessly, which would be pretty broken. But it keeps you moving fast enough that it doesn't really feel like you've lost anything. Because at most you might have to wait, like, personally I've noticed like half a second before you can do something else. So with that, guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up the class basics for the Revenant in the Heart of Thorns expansion for Guild Wars 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. I have more content for Guild Wars planned. But even if you don't subscribe, I hope you guys have a good day.